I'm alive a bit after all that work. Okay, this is an answer to a question that was put inside the question and answers box, which is, when God sent the flood, did he flood the whole earth? Because that doesn't add up. So we're going to see if it adds up or not as we go through this afternoon. Where did Noah keep his bees? In the archives. All right. It's going to be a long afternoon. But you do it to yourselves. Not really. Okay, so Noah's Ark. So traditional teachings on creation and the flood leave a lot of people thinking, sort of in disbelief really, the disparity between the scientific and the scriptures. You know, one is against the other. And the challenge, I suppose, is to reconcile the scientific with the Bible and see what the Bible actually says and really does say. Let the Bible speak for itself. So we're going to have a look through at some of the traditional beliefs of the whole world flood. Lots of people just put it all into mythology as well. But the Bible does support things that are verifiable, you know, and that's what we'll have a look as we go through. But we want to have a look at the scriptures without, or try as best as we can to put any preconceived ideas to one side in order to see the words of the Bible and how they come to light. Other questions that were put in the box which have been done at various times are, the heavens and earth were created in 6 literal 24 hours or periods of time. And then we've got the chronology of the Bible, Adam and Eve being the first man and woman, and we know that's not the case because, you know, that they went and replenished the earth. We've got 6-day man, etc. And this, with it being in Genesis, is one of those questions that just continues on. At the time of Noah, the entire earth was flooded with water, and the earth was repopulated from 3 families. That's what, you know, it is the popular view that's put forward. And there's nothing new under the sun. I was going to put some quotes in, but we're not going to do it this time around, from Josephus and Plato and various people, and their views on the flood and the historical, because they were 2,000 years prior to us. But really, there's still thousands of years on from the actual event, so it's only another opinion in the pond, really. So I thought we'd leave those out. So we'll try and look at, was the flood in the Bible worldwide or local? So we'll look at that first, and then if it's worldwide or if it's local, and the implications on the size of the ark, the food, the animals, and the knock-on effects of both views. So one is that the flood was, the whole earth was covered, just everything, from, you know, South America to Australia, the whole place. And the other one is that it was local, as in local to the Mesopotamian area of, you know, where we know Assyria, Babylon, Greece, Israel, Egypt, that sort of area. Wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, that we might be justified by faith. But it's important to know that the scriptures are not trying to answer all our scientific questions. The purpose of the scriptures that we have in front of us is that it leads us to Christ, and it leads us to believe in the Son of God, the death and resurrection, and the outpouring of the Holy Ghost and the coming of the Lord. That's the important bit. Genesis, I think it's 33 verses for the creation of the earth and the universe. And then Genesis 6 to 9 deals with the flood. So there's not huge expanses of detail that people are trying to then fill in the gaps. So we'll look at what's actually written. So we've got Adam and Eve, then the flood fits in here before the Tower of Babel, and then Job is a little bit more of a mystery as to where that fits in, but somewhere around that timeline. And then we get to Abraham, that we heard about this afternoon, further on again. And then this is just a breakdown of Noah here in these verses, of waiting in the ark. The water continued the day, so all in all is around about 377 days, depending on, you know, various views. But that's sort of a reasonable sort of assumption from those scriptures. Try and work them out. So Adam and Eve, and then all mankind in the region of Mesopotamian Valley, the Garden of Eden and its surrounds, had eaten of the tree of knowledge and good and evil via Adam and Eve. But obviously the evil was far more popular. And we need to just look at some of the terminology that the Bible uses around that time as well. Nowhere in the whole story do we have God being upset with people in other regions of the planet. It's with Adam and Eve and his descendants. God has chosen them, and it's those people that God's interested in at that time. So we don't hear that God's upset with the Alaskans or people all around the world in that sense. They're not mentioned. They're not part of this, as we'll get to, the known world to the people of the Bible. And even though it may only be this area, people that I've spoken to from over in the Caribbean area and Aruba, and they say, well, this is the East's history, but it's not really our history. It's the Bible history, and again, it's to teach us about God. That's why God has chosen that place, He's chosen that people, and from that we're able to learn about God and His character and how He deals with people, and from that we can take it all around the world and have a relationship with the Lord. So that's the two main options. The whole earth, God's covenant with the Adamic race, really. And we're going to start with covenant, because really that's where the story ends as well, with the covenant. And God said, it came to pass when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, God saw the wickedness of man, and that it repented the Lord that He had made man on the earth, and it grieved Him at His heart. The earth was filled with violence, and I will destroy them with the earth. So we've got this thing of what is the earth? Is it the whole world, or is it the area? And just as we're passing on that as well, the word for violence. The reason why I've highlighted that is because there's lots going around at the moment with that word in Hebrew. It means Hamas, but it's not the acronym from the Hamas terrorist organisation. It's just the word Hamas that means violence. So it's not waiting for Hamas. People then look into the prophecies that it's going to be that particular people that are going to, and it just runs away again. So the word in Hebrew spells Hamas, but it's a different route, if you like. So this one was just to show. Don't have to look through all of this, but just having a look through Genesis chapter 6 and where the earth is mentioned a number of times. One of them is Adamah, means the ground or the earth. So Adam comes from Adamah, it comes from the ground. Man came from the ground, and he goes back to the dust, back to the ground. And this other word is eretz, and it means land or whole earth, dry land, ground, political, or even the underworld. But it's earth, and that one's mentioned 2,504 times in the Bible. This one is mentioned 244 times, just in passing. This is a slide from another presentation on the Hebrews, which I really like. Where are we up to? Yeah, this word for pottery and the word eretz. It means, it's translated as land, but the word eretz comes from a root word meaning eratz, and it means fragment. So when these pots are broken by the wells and dropped, what they would do, they wouldn't just throw them in the bin. They'd keep them and write on them and use them as like post-it notes. They were the original post-it notes, those broken pots. But it's also where we get the word from for earth, meaning broken fragment. Now, do they know all of that, or is that just, it's just the way that the Lord has designed things? I just enjoy looking at that fragment and the word for earth, because it's similar to the broken fragments around the clay pot. A couple of examples of where the earth, or the whole earth, the face of the earth, is mentioned. The face of the earth, to be able to see the earth. So in Exodus, it's showing the principle of context, really, is that the more a word is used, the more clarity is given to that word, the more examples we can use and build a better picture of that word. So when we're looking at the whole earth, we're not talking about those in Denmark being covered with plagues of locusts. So it's the same principle that we would apply throughout the Bible. So we'd have to apply it all the way through, or not really. It was just a portion of Egypt. So just to highlight the use of the word land and the face of the earth and the whole earth in the Bible, we've got Cyrus the Great, and this, we know this is the cylinder, the famous Cyrus cylinder, and on that it talks about the king of the four corners of the world. It's the known world of Cyrus at the time. But the terminology, even outside of the Bible, was to talk about the whole world, as in their known world. Outside of that, it's over the horizon. Be included in the four corners. It's not Australia, South Africa, or wherever. So the Roman Empire, just to hammer the point home, really, in the days there went the decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. Again, that was the Roman Empire. And all that world was taxed, their known world. Hopefully that makes the point. Also, as well, we've got the day of Pentecost, dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven. Now, there were no Eskimos or people from Australia or South Africa or wherever you might think, Canada, to name the various places. But these were people from, in Acts 2, it talks about the Parthians, the Medes, the Elamites, the dwellers in Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, and all the way through to Cretes and Arabians. These are all the places named in Acts chapter 2. Again, it puts us in that world, in their known world. So I hope that makes sense. The world as known to the Hebrews according to the Mosaic account. So that was their world. So you've got the different people living in their world. And we get to Noah. And the word Noah is very close to the word for rest or comfort, nuach. So it's a close one. Also, as well, I came across this fairly recently, was that Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. And it's Noah spelt backwards. Hen is grace. Favour and grace is the opposite. Probably have to sit down that one a bit more. So the implications of a local or a worldwide flood on the design, the dimensions of the ark, what you can fit in, how many animals can you fit in, that's what we're going to look at next. So hopefully the use of the word for the whole earth is fairly well covered. So a cubit is, just to try and put it in something you can understand, is 0.18 of a reed. Everyone knows what that is, don't they? It's about 0.48, about nearly half a metre is a cubit. We move into the building of the ark. An ark of gopher wood shall thou make in the ark, and shall. It's amazing. You've got 3 chapters in Genesis, and you could spend pretty much a lifetime looking through all the words and the meanings and the implications of those. But we're just going to skip through them. Here, the length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, the height of it 30 cubits. So the Lord gives the detail which we can work backwards from. Soccer field, not sure which soccer field, just an average one, but about 90 metres. So you think the 100-metre race. So it's not particularly huge. It's 137 metres to run. So we'll have a look at a few more as we go through. So the ark were approximately 3,000 square metres, approximately 9,000 square metres for the ark. I think Wembley would be about 7,000, Wembley Stadium. So I've never been to Wembley, so I grew up watching Manchester City in the 80s, so I never got a chance to go to Wembley. Thanks, Derek. Okay. So the Titanic, we know that one from Liverpool as well. But Noah's Ark is a lot smaller than... It's a huge boat, but it's a lot smaller than the Queen Mary was in the docks, I think, a while ago, was it? Was that the second or one of them? Huge ships. Noah's Ark really is relatively small. in comparison. Again, Titanic, 800 feet, 450 feet, 90, so it's smaller, and yet this is what was sort of on there. So we're going to look next at what can we fit into the ark. Pitch, 1,300 cubic feet, 14,000 tons. So now we've established roughly the dimensions, we're going to see what we can fit into it. These are all artist impressions. We don't know the full detail. And then we've got the animals that start to go on. Of every clean beast, thou shalt take it by sevens, a male and his female, and a beast that are not clean by two, the male and his female, of fowls also in the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. So again, it comes back to that. Got some of these from some of Pastor Jock's old leaflets. So according to Pastor Jock's calculations, I didn't sit down and go through all of it, but it would leave, so the insects, leaving out the insects and the bats, which would be about 1,100 in variety of various bats on their own, fitting every animal and every species would leave about 0.2 of a square metre for each one standing. So 2 species, minimum of 2, male and females, and then that's not even accounting for food, for refuge, for all the other things that go on there as well. So it doesn't work. That's really the point. Anyone recognise this one? This one's it's the Ark van Noah. It's the one in Holland that you can go to. We went there one day to get on there, but we didn't have enough time to make use of the walk around, because it wasn't very cheap for a family to walk around it. But it was good to see on the water. The replica of Noah's Ark, a window as well. This was one point that I think it was Pastor Jock as well, had made about the window being all across the top. With that amount of animals in there, it would need to be well ventilated. So there'd be a lot of gas and a lot of hot air within there. All the practicalities, that's what we're looking at. And then the food as well. Yeah, of all the food that is eaten now, and remember, we're not looking at 40 days, we're looking at just over a year's worth of food, etc. for thee and for them. So again, it becomes impractical. Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. So then we get to the flood itself, and as we're passing, it's hard not to. We'll finish off with one or two scriptures, but it's hard not to look at. For as in the days of Noah were before the flood, they were eating, drinking, and marrying, and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. So shall it be, for the coming of the Son of Man. So we'll skip through a few. Water. If the whole planet was covered with water, then all the salt water and the fresh water would all mix together. Lots of the plant life would just be destroyed as well. So there's other knock-on effects of that as well. I don't quite know the science behind that, but it's worth investigating probably more. But it would have an impact on it, to some larger degree. Fitting all the people. So there's no instruction regarding water, to take on water onto the boat, because if it's coming up from the depths and it's raining down, it's probably all right to drink as well, apart from the things floating in it. Maybe you want to just get one of those drinking straws that they have now. Maybe Noah invented that. So that was just something I'd not thought of before, was where did they get the water from? Then there's other things that we're not going to go into. Even the numbers alone of 40 being by trial, the number 8 souls on the ark, Then you've got 17th day, the number of days, etc. All have great significance when we take those principles forward through the whole of the Bible. But we're going to look at another simple one here, 15 cubits above the mountains. So that's about 15 cubits. It's about 7.5 metres, 15 cubits. So remember, it's about half a metre. So it's a cubit is half a metre. So 15 cubits is about 7.5. And all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. So we've got Mount Ararat, but then we've also got Everest as well here, and all the various ones that would all have to be covered. So you'd have to go for the tallest one. You'd have to be Everest plus another 7.5 metres of water. And if you do the calculations on that, the time for that to evaporate would apparently it'd still be evaporating now. For that water to dissipate, where would it go? Sometimes people quote that from many countries or continents on the earth record the story of a great flood. As I'm sure we're aware, one of them is Enuma Elish, which is sort of in the Babylonian area itself anyway. But I'm just going to disregard lots of those, because if those legends were true and had actually happened everywhere, there'd be no one left to tell the story, because there was only Noah that survived it, so there wouldn't be anyone left, if that makes sense. But we also see that Noah's sons, as we'll see at the very end, Noah's sons spread out, and they're taking stories of Adam and Eve and the flood, and they're taking those stories northward, eastward and westward. So those legends, or if you like, legend stories of the things that we read in the Bible, are going to those other places as well, that are then reconfiguring them. Every living substance was destroyed. Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. God remembered Noah. It's a good job. He was remembered. And I'm sure I can remember from a few weeks ago, the word remember is easy to remember, because we think of the prophet Zechariah, and his name means God remembers. So when God remembers, he doesn't just bring it to mind and go, oh, there's Noah, I forgot all about Noah. It means he acted. That was when he remembered him, was when he started to act. So when God remembers, it's the action that comes with it. The whole of the Mesopotamian region was flooded and then slowly drained away. The hills and the mountains were covered, and they did not need to rely on the evaporation, because it just naturally ran off. You've got the rivers, and then into the Persian Gulf, if you like. Tigris, the Euphrates, source from the mountains of Ararat and then drain off. So it all sort of fits together when we look at the localised flood. This one is just a nice psalm in the middle. Who laid the foundations of the earth, that it should not be removed forever? Thou coverest it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the heavens, and at thy rebuke they fled. At the voice of thy thunder they hasted away. They go up by the mountains, they go down by the valleys, unto the place where thou hast founded for them. Thou hast set a bound that they may not pass over, that they turn not again to cover the earth. Just a nice one in the middle. That's it in the background there. That's Ararat in the background, looking over the hills. Again, this is Ararat. So why did the ark come to rest close to where it was built? You know, surely if it was the worldwide flood, it could have ended up on a hill anywhere around there, but it ended up not far away from where it set off. In that sense, it didn't end up in in Russia or anywhere. It's fairly straightforward. Har means a mountain, and it was the mountains, the hills of Ararat, which are in this Mesopotamian region. I'm not going to go through the details of them, but this is the area, mountains of Ararat. So it's like needle in a haystack, looking for that little boat there that people are still doing under thousands of years of silt and dust, and and water, and it's timber as well. So it's likely rotted away. It's around about 600-700 miles from Israel. So we're looking at this area here. So Noah's Ark. And that was again just the dimensions. And then this is sort of the area. So what was there was a point to this, if I can read it. Yeah. Might have come to rest anywhere within an area of more than 100,000 square miles. We saw with one of the planes recently in the ocean and the vastness of the earth when they were trying to find one of the planes that had landed in the ocean, and it's almost impossible to find, let alone this. And then we get now, as we start to come towards the end, we get the ravens. My favourite bird is the raven. Having survived for many months, an unclean fowl is set off first and doesn't return. And one of the old sages said one of the reasons why the ravens don't return is because they're able to feed on death. So things that were floating around, the ravens could eat from. No mention of them returning. Also a long-distance flyer as well. And we've got the dove. Sounds nicer as a dove rather than a pigeon. Whereas like the dove, a pigeon was more stay-at-home creature and would not have ventured far from the ark. The olive branch is native again to the land. So you've got the mountains of Ararat are in the land, the olives are native to the land. Everything that is mentioned within the scriptures is native to the land. There's not something that we think, why is that moose all of a sudden in there, or whatever it might be. Then Noah sets up the altar as he comes out to give thanks. Again, we're not going to go through all those details. We can read those in any time. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. So that's the time we're in now. When people say all these things are going to stop, not particularly. The Lord says they're going to continue on. The rainbow, we started with the covenant. We're going to end with the covenant here. The subject of the covenant, again, teaching us about God's promises. And when we see the rainbow, we look into the sky and we see God's promises. We remember the stories. We remember those lessons from Noah, etc. The Lord's not going to do it again, but next time it's going to be by fire. And then Noah is, like many of the patriarchs, none of them are perfect, neither are we. But what we learn from those stories, this is where one of them found him after he'd grown a vineyard, got drunk. One of his sons found him, and he was then cursed, and the other two then covered his father up. But what we do learn about is we learn about God's forgiveness, his mercy. We learn what faith, judgment, truth, etc. are like as we go through, and as we've heard today with Abraham. So this is Noah's three sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And this is the areas that then they start to move out to from that period. This is an older one. East is north there. But it just shows that the movement of the nation starts to begin, along with the stories that come from the scriptures as well. We do find stories of Adam and Eve and all around the world, and certain places like Hawaii you can trace to the word for Eve and various things, but that's because they've gone forward outwards from the garden. So just a few New Testament references. God is long-suffering. That's what we learn from it. While the ark was preparing, 8 souls were saved. A preacher of righteousness, warned, moved, prepared, saving righteousness which is by faith. Noach, hen. And that was where we started, just looking at the days, which if anyone wants a copy of that, I'm sure you can get one, or I can print it off. And in summary, or in conclusion, last 2 slides, it says we've seen the dogmatic beliefs, why it's important that this can stop. The reason why we look at it is because it can stop reasonable people in believing the Bible. They just get it and go, that's a load of rubbish, and just throw it to one side without ever having, Mary's here because somebody said, that's not what the Bible says. Let's have a look what the Bible actually says. And then, it's no longer a stumbling block. It's rather, it's an aid to bring us to Christ. It becomes more of a schoolmaster, a work of art. So worldwide or local, earth, Eret, Adama, land, And all the examples given are all the context of that Middle East area. And that in itself has the implication of the design. Could you fit all the animals from all the world in, or could it reasonably have fitted in animals from that region? Descendants of Ham, Shem and Japheth, 3 families. Did they all intermarry and become all nations from 3 people? We know that's not the case. And we have the coming of the Lord on the horizon. So any questions? That's the last one.